Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 4 of the 29th Annual Vanier College Symposium on the Holocaust and Genocide. I'm Marlene Grossman. I co-coordinate the symposium as well as being a psychology teacher. I'd like to welcome the first speaker of the day, Dr. Ramy Aziz, an Egyptian researcher and political analyst of Middle Eastern affairs, political Islam, and Arab-Israeli relations. He is also a research fellow at the Institute for the Study of Global Antisemitism, or ISGAP. His articles and analyses appear in the Jerusalem Post, the Times of Israel, Middle East Quarterly, and the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. He has conducted interviews with Skynews, Russia Today, I24news TV, DWTV and radio, Israeli Public TV and radio, and Alhurra news channel. Welcome, Dr. Aziz.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Professor Grossman, I'd like to thank you very much for having me in this prestigious 29th Annual Symposium, Vanier College in the Holocaust and Genocide. Because we have a limited time, I prefer to get started as soon as possible. Today, I will speak to all of you about the suffering of Coptic Christian in Egypt. And usually we didn't refer to as a Christian in Egypt. We didn't use the term of Coptic Christian because Coptic or Coptic generally mean Christian of Egypt. But at the beginning, we need to identify who are the Copts before talking about them. The Copts are Egypt's indigenous Christian Islam religion community. The term Copts and Coptic are variously used to denote either the members of the Coptic Orthodox Church. Why? Because the Coptic Orthodox Church is the majority of the Christian in Egypt. Is 90% of Copts in Egypt, they are Orthodox. There's the Catholic, Protestant, and others for sure, but that 90% of them are Orthodox. It's the largest Christian body in Egypt, or as a generic term is for Egyptian Christian. Copts constitute more than 10% of the population of Egypt. Now, the total population in Egypt is about over 100 million, so we can say the Copts in Egypt is 10 million. That is according to the non-official statistic, because there is no official statistic about the specific number of Copts in Egypt. But we as a Copts say that we are between 12 millions and 15 millions. Here we have this photo. This photo is for St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Cathedral. It's located in Abbasiyah district in downtown of Egypt. Why I use this photo here? Because this is the headquarters of the Coptic Orthodox Church around the world. Wherever there is a Coptic, they are reporting to the headquarters in Egypt, whereas the Pope is here. We're going to speak about the suffering of Coptic people in Egypt through 3 levels, or 3 forms. The first one is the legislative system, the state, and the society. If we're going to speak about the legislative system, number one, we need to clarify the relation between the constitution and the Sharia. So the Egyptian constitution in its 2nd article states that Islam is the religion of the state, Arabic is its official language, and the principal source of legislation is the Islamic law between 2 quotations, Sharia. So Egypt is considered Sharia. I'm in the, Marlene, are you with me? I'm in the 5th slide. Hello? Yeah, I'm here. Egypt is considering Sharia in its constitution as a main source of legislation. What does it mean? But the important thing is that legislative system of the state must comply with Islamic law Sharia to one degree or another, so that in the end, the state and legislative system are subject to Islamic law Sharia, and it's not possible to enact any laws that don't comply with the Islamic law between 2 quotations Sharia. So what that means? That is mean, according to Sharia, there is 2 kinds of people in the society in general in Islamic country, not limited to Egypt. There is citizens and there is dhimmi. What do you mean of dhimmi? According to Sharia, non-Muslim Jews and Christians are treated as a dhimmi. What does this mean? What does this mean? That means that the non-Muslim Jews and Christians in Islamic countries are not full citizens. They must be under the guardianship and the protection of the Muslim people. With this have a significant repercussions on all aspects of life, legally, politically, and socially, as we will see in the next paragraph. Slide number 7. We can clarify the suffering of Coptic people and non-Muslim people in general in Muslim communities or in Muslim countries through the following. But we are speaking here about the Coptics and Egypt. So according to Sharia, we have something called blasphemy law. Blasphemy law, according to the penal code, using religion to promote extremist thought with the aim of inciting strife, the meaning or the integration Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, and harming national unity, carries penalties ranging from 6 months to 5 years in jail. So the law here is not limited only to Islam. It's short to protect Christianity and Judaism, but let us see what's going on after that. Slide number 8. And number 8, according to the international reporters in human rights from State Department, from Department of Justice in UK, from Australia, from Human Rights Watch, United Nations Human Rights, we find that Copts appear more likely to face prosecution and the conviction for blasphemy than Muslims, according to DFAT, Department Foreign Affairs Trade. It's a name for Australian Foreign Minister Affairs. Some Christians have faced persecution under blasphemy laws and harassment from the security forces. So, as we see here, blasphemies apply only on the Christian, more than the other. Here are some examples about that. In July 2018, Abdu Adel, he is a man, Coptic man. He was 43 years old from Menebula village, was accused of insulting Prophet Muhammad and contempt of religion through posted on his Facebook. Despite being arrested, a large Muslim mob proceeded to attack Coptic homes and the church, St. Tedros Church, at Menebula village. Abdu was sentenced to 3 years with 90 Muslim attackers who had been arrested were released after a reconciliation session, or we have something called reconciliation committee. It's a customary session or committee. So people gathering together to the Muslim for sure, and Christians. The Muslim are the citizens, the Christian is the dhimmi. So at the end, the upper hand will be for the Muslim. That is completely working out away from the law. So here is there is a complete absence for the state when it's come to any conflict between Muslim and non-Muslim, according to the Sharia law. So the second example we have here in May 2014, Kurul Shawqi Atallah of Armant Luxor, also in south of Egypt, in Upper Egypt, in rural society. And we will see what the relation between the sectarian attacks and the violence against people and the rural areas and Upper Egypt. Was sentenced to 6 years based on accusations that that he shared and liked another page. He just put a like button, hit a like button in the Facebook on the page that shows contempt to Islam in his Facebook page, title Nights of the Cross. Based on that, he sentenced for 6 years. The third case in 2014, Dimian Ahmad, a Christian social studies teacher in Luxor, was sentenced to 6 months and fined 1,100 Egyptian pounds for insulting Islam based on a complaint of one student's parents. Mrs. Ahmad's students who were interviewed verified her responses that she said nothing wrong while she was teaching a comparison between religions in ancient, middle, and modern age. But nobody believed her, and they sentenced her 6 months and fined her 1,000 Egyptian dollar in 2014. That is equal, you are talking about $15,000 in Egypt. It's a huge amount of money, by the way. But we have another example. We have seen that if some Christian just hits a button and like on Facebook and pages criticize Islam, or as they say, called to criticize Prophet Muhammad, he's sentenced 6 years in jail just for like page on the Facebook. But the newspaper Yom 7 or the 7th days, which has close ties with the state and the intelligence services, on February 16, 2009, published an article titled "The Brotherhood, the Jews, and the Shiites: The Trade of Evil in the World," which was later removed from the press. But the author, Alhurra, he's a Muslim, claimed that Jews were behind all global problems, include the Muslim Brotherhood and the Jihad. Al-Hawari also believes that Jews seek to destabilize the world in order to promote their self-interest. Al-Hawari claims that Jews want us to establish and expand empire extended from Nile to Furat. And in spite of Al-Hawari here, as a journalist, he criticizes Judaism and through the Jewish people, not Zionists, as because it's in Arab world they are so tolerant when it's come to criticize Zionism and world Zionist conspiracies, these issues. But blasphemy law doesn't work with Al-Hawari, and nobody touch him. So there is a kind of distinguish here between if you are Muslim, non-Muslim, when it's come to the religion. So the third axis we can test here is a conversion from Islam and apostasy. There is no apostasy law in the Egyptian judiciary system, but as a matter of fact, it's prohibited for anyone wishing to convert away from Islam. Conversion to Islam is always accepted. That is based in Sharia. The court considers that a person choosing to convert to Islam has accepted all its tenets, including giving up their rights to convert away from it because they know it's prohibited in Islam. So what's going on after that? What's happened? Okay, so the government recognizes conversion to Islam, but not from Islam to any other religion. In 2008, ruling on a lawsuit against the government for non-recognizing a Muslim's conversion to Christianity, the administrative court ruled in favor of the government, stating it's due to protect public order from the crime of apostasy from Islam. And despite there is no legally in the penal law, in the penal code, any law talking about apostasy, but the administrative court here apply the Sharia, because as we have mentioned at the second article of the Egyptian constitution, the Sharia is the main source of legislation. So regardless there is a law pointed out anything in Sharia or no, the judge will back to Sharia before taking any decision. The second dilemma in the legislative system in Egypt and Coptic suffering is the topic of church building construction and permits for renovation of churches. Churches buildings is one of the most sensitive issue in Egypt. It has traditionally been very difficult to build a new church in Egypt or renovate it, as local authorities have imposed a tough process to request permission and then ultimately refused the building permit. In contrast, the law does not stipulate any government role in reviewing the number or size mosques, and no approval is required for mosques renovation. DFAT, as I have mentioned before, the Australian Foreign Ministry, understands that there are approximately 2,800 registered churches through Egypt, compared nearly 110,000 mosques. Marlene, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, because I can't hear you. Okay. So we are now on slide number 16. So in the same context of the church building and renovation, state abuse over church permits discriminate against Copts is not a new phenomenon. In February 1856, the Ottoman Caliphate issued hegemonic decree, Al-Khat al-Hamayoni, giving the ruler at the time sultans and later Khalifa, Khedive, then king, and since 1952 president, because after 1952 Egypt converted to be from monarchy regime to republic regime. So in 1952 president of the republic, the legal authority to decree the concentration of any house of worship for non-Muslim subject. As we mentioned before, mosque is out of this system. You can build and renovate mosque without getting any permission, without getting any license from the state. But there is another important historical station as this issue. In February 1934, there is one called Al-Izabi Basha. He served as under secretary of the Ministry of Interior, issued administrative decree listing 10 conditions necessary in order to issue a church construction permit. It's still working until today, by the way. Al-Izabi 10 condition is still working until today, and even the 1956 as an autumn decree is still working until today. We are in 2020, but this old law is still working in regard of construction in new churches or renovated. Here, for saving the time, I will not show up as a 10 condition. I will only show you 2 conditions, and you can imagine the rest of them. These 2 conditions, the first one talking about what is the distance between the proposed church and the surrounding mosques. That is mean, if there is a mosque is located here in this area, you can't build a church. I don't know what the relationship between that, but that is the law here there. If it's a made Muslims, do they have any objections to it? If there's any Muslims guy in the district, neighborhood, says, okay, I'm not agreed that you have a church here, okay, that you will not be able to build it. That is the law in Egypt in this regard. Slide number 18. So the construction and renovation of churches is a highly political process in Egypt that has historically required presidential approval to proceed. You can imagine to build or renovate a church, you need to get approval from the president himself. So the second axis where we can test the volume of suffering of Coptic people in Egypt is the state and the society. The state and society. Number one, we can check the employment status in Egypt. The Copts faces official discrimination, including in obtaining senior position in government and security forces. The USSD, the United States State Department, the 2019 report on international religious freedom stated that discrimination, and by the way, here, number one refers to the discrimination in the public sectors, but what about the private sectors? The USSD 2019 report on international religious freedom stated discrimination in private sector hiring continued, including in professional sports, according to human rights group and religious community, according to a Coptic Christian advocacy group. Of the 540 players in the top professional soccer clubs, only one was Christian. And I remember when I was young, this was about 30 years ago. Slide number 20. The second problem the Copts facing in Egypt, it's a severe problem, is Coptic girls and young women disappearing in Egypt, forced disappearing. And Coptic women in Egypt are in general face difficult additional to other women. In general, women in Egypt in bad condition, to be honest, but the Coptic one have more difficulties and additional than other women. In the form of sometimes being being the target of disappearance, forced abduction, and forced conversion, especially the Coptic age between 14 and 25 years. Slide number 21. Kidnapping of Coptic women and girls has been an ongoing phenomenon in Egypt, with more intensification in the last decade. Hundreds of victims, including those disappeared or blackmailed, have been reported. Some completely disappeared and the others reappeared only after claiming to have converted to Islam. You should link this paragraph to the apostasy law. Why, after the kidnapping young women and girls, Coptic women and girls, they converted them to Islam? Because just when you entered and convert to Islam, you can't convert away again. So that is the point. So the process of kidnapping, forcibly converting, and marrying Coptic women to Muslim is widely known to be organized and financed by Salafist and other Islamist groups who operate under implicit support of the state intelligence services or agency. The process kidnapping, forcibly converting, and marrying Coptic women to Muslim is widely known to be organized and financed by, it's the same, I missed something, I'm sorry. The kidnapper get paid for every Coptic girl they abduct. Uncounted number of complaints, protests, and over the years, there is no response from the government. They clearly shows that Egyptian authorities at various levels are fully implicated in this ongoing crime against humanity. So there is here, in this point of kidnapping young women and girl, Coptic women and girl, we can find out clearly the relation between the state and the society on the issue of persecuting Coptic people in Egypt. The third axis and the last one in our presentation is the violence and sectarian attacks against Copts. The beginnings of the serious violence, sectarian attacks, and discrimination against the Copts back to the 70s under President Anwar Sadat, who embraced Islam and Islamists as a counterweight to the left. The violence and discrimination against the Coptic increased significantly, especially following the 25th January revolution that overthrew Hosni Mubarak, and during the era of the military, the transition period where the military council ran Egypt and from 2011 until the May of 2012, and the Muslim Brotherhood era between Turkish President Mohammed Morsi and the current President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi as well. Nothing has changed even under the Sisi regime, and in spite of al-Sisi, the Copts in Egypt for a long time consider that he's a long-awaited man. He will improve the life conditions and the citizenship condition for the Copts, but he let them down. And many sectarian and violence attacks happened during his time, and it still continues. Most of the attack and violence against Coptic take place in rural areas, as we saw, just as we have seen just before here. Presentation number 9 and presentation number 10 examples. The most Christian sentenced to jail based on blasphemy law from villages, rural area. So why rural area? We will see now here. So I'm now in slide number 25. Most of the attack and violence against the Coptic take place in rural areas in the Upper Egypt, especially in the Minya Governorate, located 350 kilometers south of Cairo, the capital. Due to the tribal nature of these societies and the great role of religion in these societies, which lead to widespread of extremism there. Now we have here two examples about the violence and the Sharif attack against the Coptic people. I choose two. Just there is a tenth of them, but I choose two. It's the most horrible one. Number one is Maspero Massacre. Maspero Massacre happened in 2011. The Maspero Massacre initially started as demonstrations in October 2011 by a group dominated by Egyptian Copts in reaction to the demolition of church in Upper Egypt. So here a church and demolition of a church, building a church and renovation a church is a major cause behind any sectarian attacks or any violence against Coptic in Egypt. So demolition of the church in Upper Egypt claimed to be built without appropriate license. The peaceful protesters was intended to stage a sit-in in front of the Maspero television building. Maspero is the name of the public state headquarters television. Were attacked by security forces, not security forces, attacked by the army, and we will see the video now, and the army even here, resulting in 28 deaths, most among the Coptic protesters. No, not most, all of them, because I'm in touch with I've been in touch with them, and I have bad memories about this massacre. Anyway, and 212 injuries, most of which were assassinated by Copts. I'm so sorry for the following picture, and I apologize before showing it. Here is some dead body from after these massacres. You can imagine that is part from 28 people. Coptic has been dead. We here have a videos because, you know, this picture equal 1,000 words, but the videos equal 1 million words. Marlene, could you please play the video in slide number 29?
There's no video here.
No, exactly. No, there is a video.
Sorry, I'm not seeing a video.
Okay, just a second.
There's no play button.
Just click on it.
There's no play button. Sorry, Ramy. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. It's the blue slide, Ramy. The blue slide in 24.
You can hear me, but
yes.
Okay, you can hear at least.
I don't see a play button, so I'm having a hard time knowing what you want me to do.
No problem. Just a second. Okay. If you can hear me, you can hear the explanation.
Anderson Cooper 360. CNN weeknights at 8 Eastern. Keeping them honest in Egypt, where dozens are dead, hundreds injured after a weekend of bloodshed. It's the worst violence in Egypt since the uprising 8 months ago that toppled President Hosni Mubarak. All the talk of a peaceful transition, just talk at this point. Look at this. This is the reality in the new Egypt. Too similar to the old. Military tanks right there running over people Sunday night. Clashes between the army and pro-Coptic Christian protesters turned deadly. At least 25 people killed, nearly 300 others wounded. Coptic Christians are an ancient sect that make up about 9% of Egypt's population. They have faced a lot of violence in recent months, but it's unclear just how the violence started Sunday night or who is to blame. But here's what we do know. The violence erupted when a group of Coptic Christians and supporters of their cause were marching toward the Egyptian state-run television building. Military trucks were set on fire. Some of the protesters could be seen throwing rocks. The army says some in the crowd had guns and fired on them. Yet witnesses say it was the army who fired on the protesters. The stories may be different, but no one can deny this. Look right there, dead bodies in the morgue, the victims of this weekend's clashes. Too many victims to refrigerate, so they are kept on ice. This is the reality in the new Egypt. Again, too similar to...
Okay, the second video.
Again, I don't see a play button here, Ramy.
No. Do you can hear? This is the first one working
Yes,
out?
we can hear. Yeah, we hear very well.
Okay, no problem.
A procession of thousands snakes through the streets of Cairo. This march winding towards Egypt's state television building
marks the first anniversary of what's been dubbed the Maspero Massacre. On October 9th of last year, as mainly Coptic Christians demonstrated here over an attack on a church in Upper Egypt, military forces attacked the protesters. Of at least 26 people who died, many were run over by armored personnel carriers that smashed through the crowd seemingly at random. An investigation was called following the killings, and the then military rulers promised justice. But to date, no one has been held to account, and demonstrators here are furious.
As long as an oppressive regime, as long as the people working under an oppressive regime do not get punished and are not held accountable, they will continue to do exactly the same thing that they did for 30 years and which caused the revolution to start in the first place. Justice needs to be executed.
Chants for the trial of former Field Marshal Tantawi also echoed through the crowds. He led the ruling Supreme Council of the Armed Forces, which governed Egypt until President Mohamed Morsi took office last June.
Okay, so in the first two videos, we heard, not watch it here, that the army is a killer for the Coptic people in Egypt during Maspero massacre. Let's just listen to the last videos that we are having here. It's about Egyptian churches bombed in Palm Sunday 2017.
The celebration of one of the holiest days for Christians was blown apart by a suicide bomber. Coptic Christian worshippers had gathered for Mass at St. Mark's Cathedral on Palm Sunday in Alexandria, Egypt's second largest city. All of a sudden, everything went dark, he says. I passed out. When I got up, all I saw were bodies all around me. Among the dead, 4 police officers. The Coptic Pope was in the church, but was unharmed. Only hours earlier, another bombing in the city of Tanta, located between Alexandria and Cairo. The explosion near the altar caught on video. The number of people killed here was even higher. ISIS has claimed responsibility for both attacks. It has targeted Coptic Christians in Egypt before, killing nearly 30 people in a bomb attack at this cathedral in Cairo in December. At the Vatican today, Pope Francis prayed for the victims and the attackers. May the Lord convert the hearts of people who sow terror, violence, and death, he says. Pope Francis is expected to visit Egypt at the end of the month to show his support for the Coptic Church.
Okay, so I'd like to thank all of you for your attention, and I came to the end of my presentation. Again, thank you, Professor Marlene Grossman, for this kind invitation. Welcome with any question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for explaining the suffering of the Coptics that are taking place in Egypt. I already have a number of questions. If you have questions, just to let you know, you can just type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So the first question, do Coptic families keep their young women at home or always accompanied when they go out of the home?
Yeah, it's a good question. Good question. Yeah, in big cities like Cairo, Alexandria, the Coptic young women and girls, they can move partially freely. But you know, as I told you, the women in general has a difficult time in Egypt, but especially the Coptic. Why? Because the Coptic, you can't recognize them easily because they have no hijab, you know. So they subject by harassment or annoying them in the street more than other girls and women, you know. So in big cities like Cairo and Alexandria, partially they have freedom to move around the city. But in rural areas, and some of them have to wear hijab like a Muslim women to can protect themselves, and people can't recognize them.
Okay, second question. Have the Christians in other Arab countries in the Middle East and North Africa fared better than those in Egypt? If so, why? And if not, then why do you see them as the root cause?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, the situation of Christian in general in Middle East, North Africa, and Islamic country is there is a severe deterioration. We watched what happened to the Christian in Mosul and Ninawa in Iraq by ISIS when they called them Nasara. Nasara is Islamic term refers to Christian according to the Islamic belief. That is mean between two quotation non-believer and put them in the Zimmi category. And as I have mentioned in my presentation, if you are a dhimmi, you should to be under guardianship and protection of the Muslims. You will be, I wouldn't like to say the slave, I wouldn't like to say this term, but the Muslim will be the master for sure, and you having free will to do whatever you want. If you want to do anything, you should take a permission from not the government as a citizen. You should take as a permission from the head of the tribal in your society or your village or something like that. So a Christian situation, the situation for the Christian across the Middle East, North Africa, Islamic country, Pakistan also, it's not only Middle East, it's not in good situation. It's not in good situation. What's the second part of the question, Marlene? I'm sorry.
Sorry, the question's already been erased, so I don't remember offhand. I'm just going to go to the next question, if that's okay.
Why is this realization not decent upon them?
Yeah, that's the next question. What we'll do is, if you want, whoever asked that question, if you want to ask it again, we'll answer it then.
If so, why? And if not, then what do you see as the root cause?
Thank you. Did you hear Florian? No. Yeah, so go on. Go on, Ramy. Go on. Go on, Ramy.
Yeah, so listen, to improve the condition for the Christian, not only Christian, I can speak more widely about the concept of other in Islamic countries. You need to change the curriculum. You need to change the mentality of those people. It's, when we're talking about the suffering of minority in Middle East, it's the same problem with anti-Semitism, for instance. We have seen here in the presentation, when this Egyptian journalist targets Jewish people, no blasphemy law applying on him. Why? Because Jews and the Christian, they are dhimmi, they are not citizens, so we shouldn't protect them. So the superiority of Islam is a major problem in the mentality of these extremist people.
So next question, what do Muslims in Egypt think when they hear of the persecution of Muslim minorities in countries such as India, Myanmar, Burma, Sri Lanka, and they treat the religious minorities in their own society so badly? Why doesn't this realization not descend upon them that they need to be more tolerant?
Yeah, because they are the Muslims, they are the master, others are the dhimmi. It's short answer, So dhimmi shouldn't harm a Muslim, but Muslim can harm dhimmi because, as I have mentioned just now, there is Islamic superiority.
Thank you. Is there no appreciation among the Egyptian Muslims of the Coptic contributions to nation building in Egypt? If so, why do you think it has been so easy to dismiss and ignore their contributions?
As I told you, if you can add some value to me, I will accept it, but I will not give you any rights. It's working like that. There is no concept of citizenship. There is no equal rights to the people in Egypt because all of them are citizens before the law. No, it's about, it's about religion. Religion, it's the source of all the problem in our countries, because based on your religion, I will treat with you. Even the state has a religion. Do you hear about that? According to the constitution, Islam is the religion of the state. The state is not a person. The state never go to the church, never go to the Muslim. The state is a state, but the state is Islamic state, so it will act according to the Islamic Sharia. So according to Islamic Sharia, a non-Muslim has no right.
What is the scene for Christian-Muslim marriages if the husband is Christian, given the patriarchal nature of Egyptian society?
That is not allowed in Egypt. The Muslim man can marry a Christian woman, and after that he will enforce her to convert to Islam, but a Christian man can't marry from a Christian lady. So I can't answer you because this is forbidden in Egypt. Not forbidden in Egypt, I'm sorry, Marley. This is forbidden in Islam, it's not allowed.
Right. Would you say that the treatment of the Coptic Christians was because of fear of dominance or expansion of empire?
Coptic expansion empire? No, Coptic has Coptic just wanted to get their rights as a citizens. We are not dreaming about the state or something like that.
Have Pope Francis or other Christian prelates spoken out about the persecution of Copts in Egypt?
Yeah, he did, and he visited Egypt after this deadly attack in 2017 to show solidarity with Egypt, like he did recently when he visited Iraq about 1 month ago. But as we know, the Pope, he has no power to enforce the government to change the law or something like that. He just expressed about his solidarity. It's important indeed because he sheds a light in the suffering of those people and the minority, Christian minority across Middle East. But at the end, he can't enforce the governments to change the laws or to exclude Sharia from constitution. He is not able to do
that. Where do Coptics stand politically today in Egypt? Do Coptics have a political members in parliament? Do Coptics have a minister in the current Egyptian government?
Yeah. So we have about one minister chosen by the intelligence services. We have about over 10 members in the parliament chosen by even intelligence services, because you know why? They should be 100% sure those people loyal to the regime, not loyal to the Coptic community, and they will not speak about any suffering for the Coptic community. They use them as like a cosmetics to the regime, not more.
How can we in the West aid these minority communities across Middle East and North Africa?
Speak to your government. Speak to your government to discuss with this government across the Muslim Islamic country. Don't sell weapons for them. Put condition for the financial aid and other aids by improving the human rights in general, not only Christian. Listen, Copts looking for their own rights, but we are looking for improving the human rights system in general. Because if there is a human rights in general, I will not speak as a Copt, I will speak as Egyptian in general, and I will get my rights automatically. So we are keen about the human rights issues and the human rights system in this country to be improved by pressure from the West.
So yes, I encourage everybody to contact their local representative in government should they choose to. So next question. Thank you for the interesting presentation. I would like to ask about the role of the governors, if any, in building, renovating churches in Egypt.
Yeah, listen, we still use the old builds back to 1956, Ottoman Empire. So the only person who is authorized to take a decision about a new building for a church or allowed to renovate it is the president himself. The president himself. You can imagine that you need approval from the president to renovate your house, you know, or to build a new house to pray. If we compare between the number of churches in Egypt, according to the number of the Christian in Egypt, we are talking about almost 2,800 for over 10 millions in front of 110,000 mosques for millions of Muslims. That is the official mosques. By the way, in Egypt, the people under their buildings, they can construct mosque without any license, without any permission, without anything. So I think the real number for the mosques in Egypt is over 500,000, because there is a small mosques across the country. You can't statistic.
Is there any history of Copt advisors, treasurers, etc., to various rulers, similar to the history of Jews in Muslim lands?
No, could you please repeat the question again?
Sure. Is there any history of Copt advisors or treasurers and so on to various rulers, similar to the history of the Jews in Muslim lands?
Yeah. Before the Republic, before 1952, during the monarchy, yeah. The Christian played vital roles as advisor for the king, for the Khedive and other people. But after Republic, no.
Okay. Did Boutros Ghali ever speak about the persecution of his fellow Copts in Egypt?
Yeah, Boutros Ghali is the son of Boutros Ghali Pasha. Boutros Ghali Pasha played a vital role before during the monarchy. But Boutros Ghali, who served as the General Secretary of the United Nations, he tried to shed the light about the suffering of Coptic people and among the improving of human rights in general. But at the end, the state put a pressure over him. They said, you are a patriotic person, you shouldn't criticize abroad because you give opportunity to the United States and West to attack us. It's complicated. It's not easy to a Coptic public figure in an important international position to criticize the state. It's not easy.
How have these Islamic ideologues from India and Pakistan contributed to the mentality that validates the persecution of religious minorities in Egypt?
Yeah, it's important. In spite of the majority Islam founded in Arab Peninsula, Islam linked to the Arab identity, but the Pakistani played a vital role during contemporary history in spreading extremist idea. Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi is the father of the most dangerous Islamic group in Pakistan. Consider the spiritual father of Sayyid Qutb. Sayyid Qutb played a very important role in spreading Salafi radical ideas about jihad. He derived all his ideas from Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi, the Pakistani. Yeah, so Pakistan played a vital role. Yeah.
And last question, is the Egyptian state and society not conscious of this, that their persecution of religious minorities is detrimental to the international image of their country?
During Mubarak a little bit, because, frequently Mubarak visited Washington every year. And the American president discussed with him, and the congressman and the Senate discussed with him about that, because they link it between the improving of human rights status, including Coptic people and others in Egypt, to the US aid to Egypt. But recently, Sisi is starting to play with Russia, China, so he is not considered for what is the West is going to talk about that.
Thank you, Ramy, for spending time with us. Thank you for this great presentation and for answering all the questions. Thank you to everyone for attending this session. I remind you, we have another session at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks again. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.